Much needed relief from the lockdown, but now shifting focus to the build-up at the line of actual control. A week after China's silence on the Corps Commander level talks, top government sources have told CNN News 18 that the meeting is slated to take place in the next 2 to 3 days. India will include an MEA representative in these talks because of China's inconsistencies in the dialogue process. A high-level government meeting was held on Friday to discuss the agenda of the talks and the situation at the border. It was chaired by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh and attended by External Affairs Minister S. Shankar, NSA Ajit Doval, CDS General Bipin Rawat and Army Chief Naravne. We're joined by Shreya Dhondiyal, who tracks the Ministry of Defence. Shreya, with China continuing the build-up at the LAC, does it seem their position has hardened, making a diplomatic solution more challenging?
You're absolutely right. China's position on the LAC has only hardened. If you look at the actions on the ground, if you look at the aggression that they mounted on the intervening night of 29th and 30th, then again on 31st, then again on 7th, and then again on the 8th of September, it's very clear that their stand, they have hardened their stand. And the fact is that, as far as negotiations are concerned as well, they are showing very little faith in negotiations. Let me tell you why. The fact is that China had committed to the Corps Commander level meeting 7 days ago. We still don't have a date. We are being told it could happen on Monday or Tuesday, but we still don't have a date. What is China coming to the table and saying all this while? China is saying, you are the aggressors, India is the aggressor, India is the one that opened fire first. Therefore, the onus of peace on the LAC is on India. And this they have said after every level of meeting, after diplomatic level meetings, after military level meetings, after both the foreign ministers and the defense ministers have met their Chinese counterparts. So their stand hasn't changed. They don't feel they are in the wrong. They don't feel that they have transgressed. Therefore, when India is asking for status quo ante, which means China going back to its April position where it was on 15th or 20th of April, China is simply digging in its heels and saying, we are not doing that. We are not going back. In a situation like that, where India says status quo ante, though it has not been mentioned, mind you, in that 5-point consensus, while India is insisting on status quo ante, while India is saying that every extra deployment in eastern Ladakh on the Chinese side needs to go back to the barrack, that's when we lower guards. China is continuing to stick to its stand and saying we are not going anywhere because you are the aggressors, we are in our territory. In fact, at one point of time, China's ambassador to India, Sun Weidong, had said that the process of disengagement is almost complete in eastern Ladakh, to which the Indian side was forced to come out and say, no, it isn't. It has not even started. It's barely started in Galwan, but there are other areas where disengagement needs to take place, and the Chinese are simply refusing to budge. As we speak, Ayushman, there are 65 patrolling points in Ladakh. Out of these 65 patrolling points, 10 patrolling points in eastern Ladakh are being hampered by the Chinese. These are our traditional patrolling points. These were established by the China Study Group. Patrolling points and the routes that our patrols will take is all determined by the China Study Group. But right now, there are 10 patrolling points in eastern Ladakh where the Chinese are blocking us. 5 of them are in the Depsang Plains as well. Now, do remember that Depsang Plains has not even found a mention when Rajnath Singh spoke on the floor of the House, both in the Rajya Sabha and in the Lok Sabha, which is what is, raising many eyebrows in strategic circles. PP-15 again, Hot Springs. This is where the Chinese are blocking us. PP-17, Gogra. Again, the Chinese are blocking us here. PP-17A, Gogra. Again, the Chinese are blocking us here. Galwan is PP-14 and PP-9 is just above Depsang Plains, just above PP-10. This is the Trig Heights. So there are these 10 patrolling points, and when India, goes to the talking table, they'll obviously put this forth. They'll say, these are our traditional patrolling points. We have patrolled here forever. Why are you blocking us from patrolling what has been traditionally our area? There are contentious issues, and to expect a military level, Corps Commander level talk to sort it out is being unrealistic. These are decisions that were taken high up in Beijing about, ingressing into Indian territory, and therefore a solution will be found between New Delhi and Beijing. It cannot happen at a Corps Commander meeting in Chushul or Moldo.
On that note, we're joined by Arunima, who tracks the Ministry of Home Affairs. Arunima, could we see more high-level diplomacy in the coming days to continue this momentum towards a resolution?
That's the only option left because, like Shreya is pointing out, there seems to be no indication from the Chinese side so far that they want to resolve this issue. All indications are that they want to prolong this conflict for as long as possible. We reported yesterday how constructions of semi-permanent structures are still going on at South Bank. They are wanting to construct these tentages, not really tentages, they're semi-permanent structure being called, to house their troops. So if winter months come, they would have their troops stationed inside these sub-zero temperatures, icy cold winter there, oxygen level is a problem. So they are preparing for all that. My sources are also pointing out that one of the reasons perhaps why China is dithering that is because at most points in eastern Ladakh where they wanted to dominate, they managed to ingress. Yes, at some points Indian Army has done equal deployment and prevented them from moving any further. But at a lot of points, at a lot of patrolling areas, they have prevented our forces and they have occupied features there which we claim is our territory. So the analysis is that having already entered our territory, having already occupied some of these heights, China is in no mood to disengage or withdraw, and that is why they don't want to come to the table for talks.
Shreya and Arunima, please stay with us. Now, CNN News 18 has accessed details of India's operations on the strategic heights along the LAC on the 29th and 30th of August. Now, here's a report on the build-up, the planning and the implementation.
July 3rd, Prime Minister Modi's surprise visit to Leh. At Nimmu, an interaction with troops stationed on the chilly, rarefied heights for months. And a powerful message that set the stage for a preemptive assault against China in August.
वीर भोग्या वसुंधरा यानी वीर अपने शस्त्र की ताकत से ही धरती की मातृभूमि की रक्षा करते हैं। ये धरती वीर भोग्या है, वीरों के लिए है।
Perhaps the first concrete planning meeting for the operation happened on the 24th of August in Delhi between Raksha Mantri Rajnath Singh and Chief of Defence Staff Bipin Rawat. The Special Frontier Force, with a strong presence of Tibetan Jawans, was chosen for the operation for its conditioning to icy heights and rarefied climate. The targets: Helmet Top, Gurung Hill, Magar Hill, Rezang La and Rikin La. 120 minutes, that was the total time allotted for the operation. Artillery guns and missiles were deployed near the peaks. Air power was put on alert. Shoulder-held 9K-38 Igla land-to-air missiles were deployed, with orders that any Chinese aircraft in sight be shot down. Intensive recce operations confirmed that Chinese T-15 tanks deployed at Spangur Lake near Moldo had no inkling of planned Indian ops. On the 29th, Indian troops climbed up the target slopes and waited for nightfall, as Prime Minister Modi and the top security brass monitored every move from Delhi. At nightfall, they struck. The entire operation was completed in 120 minutes as planned. 2,000 Indian troops took all 5 peaks. French Milan anti-tank missiles and Carl Gustav rockets had been positioned there. Chinese tanks at Moldo below had been rendered ineffective. The Jawans had put India in a position that has had multiple ripples, militarily and diplomatically. Its advantage India a position of strength at the LAC that forces China on the back foot, forcing the bully's tail between its legs. Bureau Report, CNN News 18.
Breaking news from the line of actual control: China is blocking Indian troops from patrolling 10 out of 63 patrolling points in Ladakh. Now, these include the Depsang Plains with PP 10, 11, 12, 12A and 13, including the Trig Heights, that's PP 9, which lies above PP 10, as well as the Galwan Valley, which is PP 14, Gogra, PP 17 and 17A. So now these are the areas where China is blocking the patrols by Indian troops. We're joined by Shreya Dondial, who tracks the Ministry of Defence, who's bringing us this breaking news. Shreya, put this in the context of India occupying those strategic heights at the line of actual control.
First, let me just explain what patrolling points are. Look, unlike the LOC, no country, whether it's China or India, we don't physically hold the LAC. What you do is there are patrolling points that are marked mostly at the LAC. In Depsang Plains, they are within Indian territory, but mostly patrolling points are marked on the LAC. In Eastern Ladakh, there are 63 of them. So what happens is that since you're not physically holding these heights, how do you holding these patrolling points or these areas, how do you lay your claim? How do you assert your claim? What you do is that you patrol these areas. So the country that patrols these areas more frequently sometimes leave tell-all tales like cigarette packets, etc., sweet wrappers, etc. That is how you assert your claim at the LAC. That's traditional, and these patrolling points have been established way back in 1975 by the all-powerful China Study Group. That's the mechanism of patrolling points that has always been in place for the last many years. But it's important to remember that not all our patrolling points are numbered. There are some patrolling points that are identified by nalas, by geographical features. For example, Karakoram Pass is a patrolling point as well. And those where there is no identifiable geographical feature, those are the patrolling points that are numbered. So that's what patrolling points do. Now, what has been happening is ever since the conflict broke out, ever since the standoff broke out, first the Chinese blocked 5 patrolling points in the Depsang Plains, and then the rest of the areas. You've already listed them out. And as you see, these patrolling points span through Eastern Ladakh. Hot Springs, Galwan, Gogra, etc. Trig Heights as well. And Trig Heights is just, PP9 is just above PP10. When India goes to the talking table, one of the things that is going to be on the table is that these are our traditional patrolling routes. This is where we have been patrolling for the last many years. Why are you blocking us now? For example, in Depsang Plains, which the political leadership of the country is curiously silent on, the Chinese have ingressed 18 kilometers into a place called Y Junction, and they are blocking our patrols. Of course, we are also blocking Chinese patrols from coming any forward, but they have been blocking 5 of our patrolling points. And this is going to be a major cause of friction when the two corps commanders meet. To put it in, context of the heights, the fact is that in mountain warfare, he who occupies the heights, Ayushman, is dominating the battle, which is why it was important for India to go ahead and occupy strategic heights on our side of the LAC. Because if we had left them vacant, and these are precarious heights to be in, these are precarious heights to survive in, these are difficult to climb, these are difficult to maintain. How do you take food there? How do you take ammunition there? Therefore, till before the conflict began, neither were we occupying these strategic heights on our side, and neither were the Chinese occupying these strategic heights on their side. But since the standoff has broken off, since China has hardened its stand, since the trust levels between the two armies is at its lowest point ever since the 1962 war, the Indians, the strategy for the Indians was to go ahead and win this race for heights, as it were, which is why whether it is South Bank, whether it is North Bank in Pangong, so we have gone ahead and occupied these strategic heights. That's important for us. And we did this because we didn't want to suffer what we have suffered as far as patrolling points are concerned. If it's your territory, might as well go and physically occupy it before the Chinese come in and, take it away from you.
Thank you, Shreya, for that piece of breaking news. China hardening its stand at the line of actual control, which is making any diplomatic solution more and more challenging. Now China may be trying to play tricks, but the josh of Indian troops at the LAC remains high. Our correspondent Arun Singh gets us this report from Leh.
चीन की सीमा पर इस वक्त तनाव है और हमारे सैनिक जिन परिस्थितियों में वहां पर चीन को जवाब दे रहे हैं, कई ऐसे पीछे लोग होते हैं जो बैकबोन होते हैं उनके। हम इस वक्त बिहार में खड़े हैं और ये जो ऊंट हैं, इनकी बड़ी भूमिका आने वाले दिनों में होने वाली है, क्योंकि रिसर्च इन पर पूरा हो चुका है। 17,000 फीट की ऊंचाई तक लगभग 170 किलो वजन ले जाने। वो वजन राशन भी हो सकता है, वो हथियार भी हो सकते हैं, और पेट्रोलिंग भी 17,000 फुट की ऊंचाई पर
जी बिल्कुल
ये चले जाएंगे और वहाँ पेट्रोलिंग भी करेंगे और सामान भी पहुँचाएंगे।
जी बिल्कुल, क्योंकि इस जानवर की खासियत ये है कि ये इसी इलाके का है, और जैसा कि हमने रिसर्च के दौरान पाया कि ये 17,000 की ऊंचाई तक भी बहुत अच्छे से और बहुत उम्दा काम कर सकता है। इसके पैरों की शेप और साइज़ जैसा कि आप देख पा रहे हैं, ये रेतीली ज़मीन में बहुत ही बढ़िया तरीके से चल पाता है, और तकरीबन 3 दिन तक बिना पानी के भी रह सकता है, तो परफेक्ट है आर्मी एनिमल के तौर पे यूज़ पे। जिन जिन इलाकों में हम झंस्कार पोनी का इस्तेमाल करके सामान नहीं पहुंचा पा रहे थे, उन जगहों के लिए अब हम इस कैमल को, इस डबल हम कैमल को, 2 कुबड़ वाले कैमल को यूज़ करेंगे। और जो भी सामान हम जैसा भी समझते हैं, चाहे वो फौज का फॉरवर्ड पोस्ट का राशन हो या हथियार एम्यूनिशन हो या और भी कोई सी चीज़ टाइप का साजो सामान हो गर्म करने के लिए अपने आप को, बुखारियाँ हों, इन सब चीज़ों को तरीके से लोड में बांट के इनके मदद से हम वहाँ तक पहुँचा सकें। हमारा तकरीबन काम इन कैमल्स के ऊपर रिसर्च का पूरा हो चुका है। अब जो हमारा प्रोसीजर है उसके हिसाब से जैसे ही इनका अप्रूवल हमको आ जाता है, तो उसके हिसाब से ये आने वाले 6 महीने के बीच में ये जानवर आगे काम के लिए डिप्लॉय हो सकते हैं।
Shifting focus, as the net widens in the Sandalwood drug racket, the Central Crime Branch has summoned 2 Kannada tele-actors and an ex-MLA's son for questioning at its headquarters around 10 a.m. today. Among the 2 actors summoned are ex-Big Boss contestant Santosh Kumar and reality TV host Akul Balaji. Former Congress MLA R.V. Devraj's son Yuvraj is the 3rd person to be summoned. Yuvraj is a former BBMP cooperator from Sudham Nagar. Meanwhile, actors Ragini Dwivedi and Sanjana Gulrani continue to remain in judicial custody. Ragini Dwivedi's bail plea will be heard today. She was arrested on charges of drug procurement, consumption and peddling. We're joined by Stacey Pereira on the story. Stacey, what more are you learning from the Bengaluru police?
Well, what we just know is that Yuvraj Arvi, in fact, the ex-operator of Sudhamanagar, he's already reached the CCB headquarters where he was summoned only at 10 o'clock. He's already made himself present there. So that questioning is going to be very crucial. And also waiting the 2 actors. Now, we don't know, one of them was in Hyderabad yesterday when he did receive those summons from the CCB. He did say that he will try to cooperate in every possible way. So now there is going to be this wait. 10 o'clock is when they're supposed to go in front of the CCB officials. Now, remember, both of these actors are people from the television industry here in Karnataka, not Sandalwood per se. Before this, you've seen Sandalwood actors who act in Kannada movies, that is Digant, as well as his wife, Edita Ray, who was summoned. And you also do have Ragini Dwivedi and Sanjana Gulrani, both of them who are under judicial custody at this point. We're also going to have Ragini Dwivedi's bail petition being heard today. That was adjourned till the 19th. A couple of others also. Remember, there are about 10 arrests that have been made so far in this whole Sandalwood drug nexus racket that we are seeing unfold over the past 2 weeks. And so this bail application is also, bail hearing is also going to be crucial because it has been postponed at least 3 times in the past. So that is something to look out for. We're going to be waiting, as well as the judicial custody that ends for actors like Sanjana. So that is going to be crucial, as well as the interrogation of these others who have been summoned at this point. That will also take place, and perhaps more names come out of the closet post this.
And Stacey, beyond the consumption of drugs, what role of these actors is the police looking at?
Well, it is mostly to do with the NDPS Act itself. That's what they're looking, because most of these people were part of high-end parties, and that's their presence in these parties and how they know the other people accused in the case. That is what is really being questioned. What is their role in this whole thing? Were they just procuring drugs? Were they supplying it? Or were they just merely present at these parties? That is something that the CCB wants to look into more closely, and which is why all their call data records are also being looked into. WhatsApp conversations are also being tracked, and that's the line of questioning that is taking place at this point.
Thank you, Stacey, for that update. Now, shifting focus, after India banned 224 Chinese apps, the United States follows suit. The Trump administration has said that it will bar people in the United States from downloading TikTok